Welcome back to Halftime Speech. Today we're going to do a Kevin Durant trade finder. So we are going through 5 different teams and putting together a scenario in which both teams could potentially accept the trade. And it's all going to be centered around Kevin Durant. So with the first one, we have the Suns and the Nets. Now, it appears here that the Suns overpay a lot, and I think in the grand scheme of things, it is an overpay. But you saw Rudy Gobert go for 5 first-round picks and a solid young player. Um, so I think the asking price for Kevin Durant, I mean, I'm pretty sure it's pretty obvious that Kevin Durant's a lot better than Rudy Gobert. So the asking price is going to be really high. Um,
Yeah,
so
this trade market value has increased significantly, especially now since Rudy Gobert got traded for so much. That same team wants to trade away Donovan Mitchell for equally as much to any team. Everyone wants a bunch of high first round picks for their star players. Like Nets are asking for a bunch more out of Kevin Durant than they are out of Kyrie Irving. Due to the fact that that Kevin Durant has a lot of years on him. They say that, but it's ruining the trade market so much.
uh, yeah, so let's go through the trade here. Mikal Bridges, a very solid young defensive player. DeAndre Ayton, the first overall pick in 2018, a very nice young center, and Cameron Johnson, a nice young, just catch and shoot 3-and-D guy for you. And then you will get 4 first-round picks and 3 second-round picks. And I think this is an overpay for sure from the Nets with how the market is now. It's a good. I wouldn't say it's good, but it's what it has to get. What has to get done if you want to keep Devin Booker and get Kevin Durant. But it says there that DeAndre Ayton cannot be traded. Um, so this trade will have to happen after October 12th. And even after that, DeAndre Ayton will have a no trade clause until I believe January. So if DeAndre Ayton accepts after October 12th, then this can go through perfectly fine.
I feel like yeah, this trade works out for both teams. I feel like this type of trade would be like their all or nothing type of movement here. They're putting away a bunch of. It's like the Timberwolves with Rudy. They're doing an all or nothing season. They want a ring. Suns have gotten to playoffs back to back, and it's like at this point, CP3 he needs a ring. He wants the ring. Devin Booker, he's been Booker, just been hooping lately. It's just like they want it, they need it, and DeAndre Ayton obviously hasn't shown the passion to wanting to stay. He's more of just a money wanting instead of just wanting to stay with Phoenix. Um,
I mean,
but
yeah,
if they're gonna try to,
Chris Paul's. I mean, his time
it's
is ticking
dwindling down,
fast. I mean, so
right?
you need a big win now move, and I mean, trading for Kevin Durant is definitely a big win now move. Um,
And then Suns, I mean, not Suns, Nets take this for sure. They have a bunch of pieces they can build around now. Building their future right now is that when traded away for Kevin Durant and Kyrie. These picks will help them build back up with actual good potential players. Having DeAndre and Cameron Johnson, Michael Bridges are nice, and then same thing with already having Ben Simmons and Seth Curry and Joe Harris, Kyrie, all those players still that might not be moved or may be moved. Either way, it's just a great piece of having it around.
yeah, I think it's a good trade for both sides because the Suns desperately want to win now in Chris Paul's time there, and the Nets want Kevin Durant gone because Kevin Durant wants to be gone, and this is a very good trade package, getting 3 young players and a lot of picks. So this is the first one. I think both teams will think about it, but let's move on to the next one. This one here is the Heat is kind of the same scenario as DeAndre Ayton. Jovic cannot be traded. He or he can be traded. He actually can be traded now because it's after August 1st. Um, so this is legal to go through. The Nets would get Bam Adebayo. Duncan Robinson would be thrown in there for salary cap purposes. Tyler Hero, a nice young player who does need to get his contract extension, so the Nets will have to do that. Nikola Jovic, who is a young draftee this year, and I see potential in him. I do, so I think that'd be a good get. And then you wouldn't get very many assets, draft pick wise, but you would get some nice young players.
I mean, two first round picks and then three second round picks are nice. I don't think Nets are looking for a trade that involves Tyler Hero or Duncan Robinson, but I know they have been looking to get Bam in there. But adding on some good shooters like Robinson and having Hero and then a nice young player in Jovic, I may think the Nets want to take this. It's not as good as the Suns trade, but it's still pretty solid. And Heat would obviously like to stack Kevin Durant with Jimmy Butler and then Kyle Lowry. That's an amazing three right there.
Yeah, the Heat don't have very many picks because they gave up. I can't remember what they gave up a bunch of picks for, but they don't have very many picks right now. So these are the only two that could go in the trade, unless they agree to swap some picks, which if this trade were to happen, could probably get done. Honestly, in my opinion, I like the Suns one a little bit more than this, for the Nets at least. Um, and probably for the
Yes.
in the Heat. Honestly, the Heat are not. I know they were just the one seed and made it to the conference finals, but their roster now after this off season is not that good. Um, I mean, you have Kyle Lowry, who's super washed now. I mean, I'm just gonna say it as it is. He's not very good anymore. Jimmy Butler's still pretty dang good. Tyler Hero's still pretty dang good. And then you don't have a power forward. I mean, you want to start Nikola Jovic, a late 20 first round pick? I mean, I wouldn't if I were them. Or Dwayne Dedman, I don't want to start him at the four. So I think this Heat team right now is not that good. So they kind of desperate to get some big names because
Yeah.
they have a center. Like they can start Omer at seven at the center, and be fine. Um, and then you could have like Kyle Lowry, Jimmy Butler, Max Strus, Kevin Durant, and Omer you're at seven as your starting five. And that's a little bit better than it is now. And you're not giving up that much picks, so I think this could work for both sides. Same as the Suns.
100% agree. I agree with that. This gives the Nets, I mean, not the Nets, this gives Heat a better chance at a deeper playoff run because they have the offensive help, that's for sure. And Heat have always been, they have an amazing defensive system coaching there, amazing defensive coaching. So this is really just a solid player that they need. Like they need this Kevin Durant star power out of them. It's tough giving up Bam and Hero, and then Robinson coming off the bench. Like that's a tough loss. But if it's for Kevin Durant, it works out in the end. If they want to ring, this is the move. If they want to keep stacking up picks, then I'd say they can keep with this same roster, but move a little.
Yeah, and it's a similar scenario to the Suns where they want to win now because, as we said, Chris Paul is pretty old and Jimmy Butler's pretty old too. He's not quite the age that Chris Paul is, but again, he is getting older. He's on the wrong side of 30 now, and that's when players start to regress. So I think a win now move like this could really help out the Heat, and the Nets obviously would love to have Bam and Tyler Hero. Um, but again, I think I would if I were the Nets, I would take the Suns offer over this one.
Yeah, I would definitely take it.
All right, let's move
If
on.
I, yeah, I
Yeah, let's move on to the third team now. So the Raptors have been rumored pretty heavily here. We have OG Anunoby, a very young 3-and-D forward. Gary Trent, very nice shooter, gets hot every once in a while. And Scotty Barnes is the rookie of the year. He's like Draymond Green has offense, pretty much. And then you would get 3 first round picks. If I'm the Nets, I would do this deal over anything because I would love to get Scotty Barnes on my team.
that is true. Having like that gives them more more salary space. It gives them a nice future in picks. And they have some young players there too. Only issue would be like, what are you gonna do when Ben Simmons comes back? Do you want him at the forward and then you replace some others,
I
or
mean,
do we move Ben?
you can move Ben Simmons back to the point guard if you need to once Kyrie Irving leaves, or Scotty Barnes can play point guard.
That's what I was saying.
I
I'd
could
want to
think
have
Scotty
I
at point guard because he's like a point forward. He's kind of like a Ben
right.
Simmons. Um,
I'd rather have
not
Scotty at point guard than Ben. He's more
yeah,
reliable.
not gameplay wise, but versatility wise, I think Scotty and Ben are
Exactly.
similar. Um, I think can play every position but the center spot, and I mean Ben might be able to play the center spot, but I mean there's some guys like Joel Embiid or Jokic who Ben cannot guard in in the post. Not saying
God no.
not saying he's weak, but I think they would have a field day with him. So I think both those guys are pretty similar um, with their versatile range, and you could have one at the four, one at the three. I think Ben Simmons could play the three, or one at the one when Kyrie Irving leaves. You could actually do that Kyrie Irving to the Lakers deal, buy out Russell Westbrook, then have one at the point guard, one at the power forward, and then Gary Trent, OG, Cam Thomas is there too. I think it's very nice. And then you also get 3 first round picks.
That lineup works out well. Um, if Raptor, I don't know, would Raptors really just want Kevin Durant? Like,
I mean,
give up all this? I don't think they'd want to give up. I don't think they'd give up Scotty for Kevin Durant.
they're forward. I don't think they would either. Maybe if maybe this could be like a trade deadline deal. The Raptors aren't doing as good as they should. Kevin Durant is still on the Nets, and they're desperate for a win now situation, um, which I don't think they should
Even,
be. I don't think they
even
should
no,
be.
no, even not. No, I think they still take a few years till they want to go for another championship run.
But
They have,
keep going.
they're having young players. They're like, it's progress so far. They have bright futures and a lot of people. I don't think they need a older Kevin Durant, even if he's good for another 3 years, 4 years. It's not going to give them that championship run they need. Like you can't predict his injuries that he had last season, especially. Like that's going to be scary. You just gave up a bunch of picks. You gave up your young Scotty Barnes, gave up an Anobi, you gave up Gary Trent, all just for Kevin Durant that may not even be able to play with you in a few years.
Yeah, I mean, their forward position is very clogged up though. So it could be nice to get rid of some and then have a superstar one come in to replace the ones that you're giving up. But again, Scotty Barnes could also be a future superstar, and I think if I'm the Raptors, I'm going to um, I'm going to keep Scotty Barnes,
Yes.
even if
If I was
Kevin Durant is
Nets, I'd
included.
take this. If I'm
Net
Nets, I'm taking
Nets,
this.
I'm taking this because I would love to get Scotty Barnes in return. I would love it. But let's move on to our fourth team, the Washington Wizards. I think Kevin Durant would love this because Kevin Durant is from Washington D.C. So this would take a lot from the Wizards because they have a lot of young players, but they don't have a lot of young stars. So they'll as you see here, they give up 4 young players and 4 first round picks, which I think is a solid haul for the Nets. In all honesty, you get Johnny Davis, who's a very good scorer. You could play your one when Kyrie Irving's gone, or play two alongside Kyrie Irving. Corey Kispert is an amazing shooter. Denny is another point forward that we were talking about earlier, and then Kristaps. We've seen what Kristaps can do in his prime. I mean, when he's healthy, he's a 7'3" guy who can shoot the lights out. So, and then
Right.
also 4 first round picks is pretty good.
You have more scoring and you have a way brighter future in the next few years. That's great for the Nets. If they're down to start a rebuild and go stock up on draft picks, because they're likely to get 2 first rounders for Kyrie, and then if they do somehow move Westbrook with this Lakers trade, if it is going to happen, hopefully it does. Westbrook's just going to get bought out, or if they want to move him for picks, which I doubt they will.
I doubt they can.
I doubt so either. But they can really just build up on trades here and get some more picks, build a better future that they threw away originally for this big trio. And they get some scores out of this trade. They have a solid scoring team, well defensive like too.
Yeah, I like
Um,
this. I like this. I think this is the most mutually beneficial trade that we've had yet. Um,
yeah,
I think the Nets get solid young players, some solid picks, and the Wizards get a Kevin Durant to pair alongside Bradley Beal. And Bradley Beal has shown that he's loyal and that he wants to win in Washington. And I think the Wizards owe it to Bradley Beal to go try to make a splash like this. And I think Kevin Durant would actually like to play for Washington because that's where he's from. That's where his family lives. Um, so I think a lot of places have had that conflict where it's like, well, if we give up this much for Kevin Durant, is he just going to ask out the next year? I think it's not the case for Washington. I think Kevin Durant could ask out of a lot of places. I think that's something would do, and it's something that he's shown that he's not a super loyal guy. And I like Kevin Durant, but he's really not a loyal to his team at all. Um, but I think the
no.
Wizards, he would like to stay there for a few years, or maybe till the end of his contract, or maybe till there's 1 year left. And I think it's great to pair with Bradley Beal. I think they fit together, and I think this is definitely the most mutually beneficial trade yet.
Yes. In terms of paper, people may be a little sketchy about it, but if you think about the actual play wise, I think it would work out well for both teams. Like super
For
well.
sure. I think it works super well for both.
Nets get a decent rebuild
Yep.
and Wizards start a win now team.
Yep. So let's move on to our final team is the Boston Celtics. Now there's been rumors that have been going on for not too long now that the Nets actually offered Kevin Durant to the Celtics for a
They
Jalen Brown
did.
trade. Um, this is a lot.
Actually,
This is a
no. The
lot.
Celtics, the Celtics offered a trade for Kevin Durant that involved Jalen Brown.
No, no. What happened is the Nets offered Kevin Durant to the Celtics for probably. They didn't tell us the entire package, but it was centered around Jalen Brown, and it said the Celtics made a counter offer. So
Hmm.
I think the Celtics are willing to give up Jalen Brown for Kevin Durant. Marcus Smart just shown he can be the best defending guard in the league. And then Robert Williams is a very nice young, super good defending center. And then you get 3 picks out of it. So I think this is also pretty mutually beneficial. Maybe not as much as the Wizards, but I think both teams, the Nets get out of here with a super good young star in Jalen Brown, Robert Williams, and Marcus Smart. And then the picks are good.
If I'm Nets, I'm easily pulling the trigger, taking away Marcus Smart and Jalen Brown. Only reason if I'm Celtics and I'm scared is only due to the fact on the loyalty, you're throwing away loyalty, two loyal players of Marcus Smart and Jalen Brown, or that you just made the finals with for Kevin Durant that you don't know how long is going to stay with you, and you don't even know if it's going to work out well.
Yeah, maybe the Celtics could do a little something. Keep Marcus Smart. If I'm the Nets, I'd probably rather have Robert Williams. Just based on how their roster is built, they need a center probably more than they need a guard. Then they need center defense more than they need perimeter defense. So I would rather have Robert Williams more than Marcus Smart if I'm the Nets. So maybe the Celtics could take out Marcus Smart and put in maybe somebody maybe a little less value. I can't think of anybody. I mean Peyton Pritchard, but maybe you can meet somewhere in between Peyton Pritchard and Marcus Smart, and then I think this could be a deal for both teams. I think they would both like this. Maybe you could switch one of those first round picks to a swap for less favorable pick. So the Celtics would have a more favorable pick, and that's just one of them. I don't know, but I think this could work out for both sides. To be honest.
It's scary because I know in the Nets' mind, the way they want to trade Kevin Durant is getting rid of Sharp in this trade, and they want to take everything out of this trade right now. That's the sad part about this. And they think KD, he's worth that much, but it's dumb to make a trade like this. They're gonna want like four plus first round picks and then three superstars. It's absurd.
And I think the value will go down over time. Seeing that teams will not give up that much for this. I mean, he's like 33, making 44 million. I think the 44 million dollars a year is fine for Kevin Durant, just because he is Kevin Durant. But he is 33 years old, and he'll still be on contract, making $40 million when he's 37. So maybe that's something teams don't really want that to pay 37-year-old Kevin Durant $40 million. But I just think right now the asking price is going to be absurd just because of the Rudy Gobert trade, and Kevin Durant is obviously a lot better than Rudy Gobert, so they're going to be asking for a ton, and it will go down over time.
Man, if I was Timberwolves, I'd rather get KD over Rudy Gobert.
Oh yeah, for sure. But that's kind of a big reason he hasn't been traded yet. Is that Rudy Gobert trade shook everything up? If it wasn't for that Rudy Gobert trade, or if it wasn't for the Jazz getting so much for Rudy Gobert, I think Donovan Mitchell could have been traded already. I think Kevin Durant
Yeah,
could have get traded already. I think Kyrie Irving could have get
Donovan
traded.
Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell would be a Knick right now. Kyrie would be a Laker right now. Kevin Durant would be on the Suns right now.
Um, I just think it's I think it will go down over time. It's just that was a crazy trade, and the Timberwolves, in my opinion, gave up way too much for Rudy Gobert. But that's all five trades this episode. That's all we got.